Hey everyone, welcome to today's SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversation at Home. I'm your moderator, Scott Mantz. And before we get started, just wanted to alert everyone to our COVID-19 Fund, which is here to assist actors struggling with the pandemic. So please check out our comment section below to see how you can qualify for aid and relief from our COVID-19 Fund. And thank you. Right now, he is part of the amazing ensemble for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which won a Golden Globe for Best Comedy Series. He is the host of America's Got Talent. He is a SAG Award nominee for Best Acting Ensemble for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He is an 8-time nominee from the NAACP Image Awards. And in 2017, he was one of Time Magazine's Persons of the Year. And if that wasn't enough, this gentleman has more energy, more positivity, more passion than anyone in this business. Welcome, Terry Crews.
Oh, what's up? Good to be here, Scott. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. And I just want to start off just by asking that the last few months have been extremely challenging, but they've been especially challenging for you and your family. And I just want to start off by asking, how are you? How's the family? How is everyone doing?
We are doing very, very well. And yeah, 2020 was a real gut punch in many, many ways. I tell you, in January, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was a shock. You know, we've been through a lot in our lives. We've been married for 31 years, and we never thought this was the biggest challenge we've ever faced together. And you know, the wonderful thing is that my wife is a warrior, and she decided to be very, very proactive with her treatment. And she went in, and we happened to get her procedure. She had a double mastectomy in mid-February, and was just a couple weeks before the stay-at-home orders happened. And we were able to kind of, by her being proactive, we were able to skip a lot of the chaos that was going on, because at the time, COVID was kind of, far away. It was over in China and over in different countries, and we had never seen it. I remember when Italy had got it, and we were like, no, we're okay right now. And then, oh man, it hit hard. And the wonderful thing about it is that I got to be her nurse. Once we had the stay-at-home order, I was literally taking care of her. I was, bathing and laundry and cooking and the whole deal. And let me tell you, we got closer. And even though I don't think she likes my cooking that much, the good thing is I got to be the one to do it, because I don't know any other time in my whole career and my whole life where I would have had a time to do this. And I tell her, even now in a very romantic way, I'm like, I feel like the world shut down so that I could take care of her. And I look for meaning in a lot of these, what you would call disasters or even tragedies, but I'm searching for the meaning. And I look at it, and I see that, and I see our relationship getting much stronger and better.
Well, I'm very, very happy that she's on the mend and doing well, and you're, keeping it together, really, literally and figuratively. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, before the world did shut down, I got to tell you, when it comes to the busiest person in this business, you get the gold star.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I got to tell you, I love what I do. I cannot, it's like you get to go play every day. I do not look at what I do as work. Mm-hmm. It's just not work. We get to go imagine. We get to go make up new worlds, new things, new people. And what's crazy is that even while we were on quarantine, the magical thing about, media, and I was socially distanced, but it didn't prevent me from being social. I was very involved because Zoom was awesome. And, another thing is really crazy. And I realized when I, in LA, I'm an actor in LA. You can probably book 2 things per day. One, it takes you to Santa Monica, and then you have to go to West Hollywood or whatever. And then that's like 5-6 hours. Well, with Zoom, I could do 7 meetings in a day and still be in my office right here, right now. And I was like, I'm exhausted. I just did 3-4 times what I was doing before. But, I personally don't think I'll ever drive to Santa Monica again from where I am. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I got to tell you, I think that's one thing that's going to stay when things start to come around is people are going to be like, no, let's just Zoom. Why don't we come all the way across town? Yeah. But you talk about going to play in 7 seasons, okay, on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, on NBC, and you're coming back for an 8th season. Watching you play with that amazing ensemble cast has been, I'll tell you, the energy and the excitement watching that show, the chemistry it's irresistible. So how much fun do you have doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine? And how has it challenged you in ways that other acting performances on TV and film haven't?
What is so amazing about this show, and for me, and just for me, is the fact that this is the first time in my 20-year career that I had anything designed specifically for me. I mean, the character's name is Terry for a reason. You know what I mean? Because it's basically based on who I am as a human being. Because I have to say that there's, when I try to tell actors what to, kind of like give them advice and the whole thing, it's really, the biggest thing is just be you, because there'll never be another you. They'll never be able to copy who you are. And never has this been more evident in my career than this character of Terry Jeffers. I mean, the only thing is I'm not a cop, but everything else, they're like, I remember, they would see me eating yogurt on the set, and it totally turned it and put it into the show. They knew I had a minivan. They added the minivan to the show. I had 4 daughters consecutively. They gave me 3 so far. And, and I've been married a long time. And they also made me a married, loving husband. And also another thing is that I love my castmates are like my family. You know what I mean? And we get along like you wouldn't believe. It's such a wonderful place to be, where everyone's sharing and giving and making sure that everyone gets the best light. And it's very, very unselfish. And, we created something that just is very, very rare. I've been on a lot of different sets, and, it doesn't really affect, sometimes I've had bad experiences, but the project's great, so it's okay. Or you have a wonderful time and the project's like,
Yeah.
But this right here, you get both. What's so amazing about Brooklyn Nine-Nine is that we have both. We're like, we love each other, we're having fun, we're challenging each other, but my goodness, it's funny, it's wonderful. And let me tell you, we have never been more popular now than when we started. I mean, we won the Golden Globe the first season, but now Brooklyn Nine-Nine is truly a household name, and it's growing every day. It gets bigger.
It really does get bigger, and it's really kind of a fairy tale with this show, because it started off on Fox and now it's on NBC. You're going into an 8th season, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but after like Everybody Hates Chris and Are We There Yet and other shows you've done, this is like the longest you've ever played a character. Is that right?
Ever. This is
Wow.
it. I mean, going on 8 years of playing Terry Jeffers. We didn't even, I remember when we got our back 9. We had just did 13 episodes, and we were filming a hospital scene, and we were dancing around like, we got the back 9. We got the back 9. I'm going 8 years. Hold on. When we wrapped season 7, everybody was like, what? And wait, and this is the thing too, and I warned, I'm a little older, I'm a little older than a lot of the guys on the cast, So I'm always like, hey guys, because I remember how fast Everybody Hates Chris went. I remember how fast Are We There Yet went. And I remember telling everyone, listen, enjoy every bit because it's over fast. It's over quick. And let me tell you, I am still shocked at how quick. It feels like we just started. You know what I mean? It feels like, wait a minute, oh my God, it's 7 and going into 8. And the speed, but it also shows, you know, just how focused we are. You don't, the time just blurs. Have you ever done something you enjoy and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, it's over? Like, are you kidding? You know, that's the way we feel.
Well, I was going to say, you know, there have been things that I've enjoyed and I've done for many years, and I just sort of ran its course and it was time to move on. So for you to play Terry now for going on 8 years, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it challenging so you don't get bored?
Yeah, well, you know, the great thing about what Dan Gore has created as the showrunner of Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the world is always changing. You know what I mean? Like every year, every season, there's a new development. You know, we have meetings. We sit and talk in the off season, and he brings every character, every person in to talk about their character and how they want to see him evolve, because the character arc is the most important thing. I mean,
Sure is.
you know, if we could all sit and just watch the same episode over and over again, it just, you know, the show would be off the air very, very quickly. But if you notice, if you watch one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you are actually, you know where you are in the story. You know what I mean? Of the whole 7 seasons. You're like, oh yeah, that's pre Jake and Amy getting together. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, that's post, you know, Terry didn't have his 3rd child yet, you know, or this, you can kind of, this is pre Gina Linetti, you know what I mean? So you know where you are in the story, which makes it so much more interesting. It starts, you know, and then this is another thing, when you're talking about the nature of entertainment has changed. First of all, I am from the movie era, where everyone had to go to the theater and the big hit comedies and the whole thing. And what has happened with streaming is that people began to watch what they would what you would do as an hour-and-a-half movie. And you go, oh yeah, this is great. But what they found is that people would rather watch 4 hours of half-hour sitcoms. You know what I mean? We kind of hit at a time where the you know, the viewers' habits were changing, which was our advantage, because instead of going to the movies to watch a comedy, they would sit and watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine and continue to do that, and which really gave it a much, like I said, the arc being more important and better. And I'm telling you, it's almost like everything hit at the right time. Yeah. And I tell this, it's lightning in a bottle, because when you see how many shows don't make it and don't go through, and you know, people that don't get it right.
As I was watching, you know, just over time, and especially recently, you know, the energy in the 7th season is just as fresh and as vibrant and as fun, and the chemistry is just as irresistible as it was in the 1st season. So you got that lightning in the bottle. I don't know what, you know, what they're doing over there, but just don't change it.
Yes. My plan is to keep going, man. I really do. I love what this means. Because, and now I want to be honest, I never thought I would be an actor. So many actors that dream this from the beginning. You have to know, you know, I work with people who are like, I saw this and when I was 3 years old. But you have to understand, I was a football player.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I know.
You know, the whole thing was, I actually wanted to get behind the scenes. I didn't know I was going to get involved in entertainment, but I never, not one time ever thought that I would be in front of the camera. This is wild. I'm so serious. I was, you know, this was 1997, and I got an invite, and I asked my wife, I was like, somebody invited me to an audition. I was like, you think I should do this? And she was like, hey, we got nothing anyway. And let me tell you something. This is why you should try everything, because I did not know that this was my calling. I had no idea. When I first got into acting, I did not know this is what I needed. You know what I mean? And go ahead.
When did you realize that it was your calling? Like, what was the moment where you went, this is it?
Let me tell you, I got to name this. It's so crazy. I was doing my first TV show, and it was crazy. It was nuts. It was called Battle Dome. And what it was American Gladiators on steroids. What they would do is we would play these wrestler type characters. My name was T-Money, and they would put me in a cage, light the ends of the cage on fire, and I would battle contestants, one after the other. And they would win money and the whole thing, but we would stay in character. You know what I mean? And there I was, they hired me because of my athletic ability and the whole thing. But when I got in, there was no coming out. Like, you know, and I remember standing, and we were at the LA Sports Arena, and it was all these fans and all these people there, and they were cheering and booing and the whole thing. And I was in my element. Like, I'm trying to tell you, I became this character. Things just came to me. I thought of ways to do different things better. I was like, this is a way I could take T-Money and make him a real character. You know, I was going all. And my wife, she looked at me, and I went backstage, and she looked at me. She said, honey, you have something else. She was like, I never saw this before. She said, I actually forgot you were my husband.
Wow.
And that's when I knew. I was like, this is me. I have to keep doing this. And then you get to Jones, and then you start getting rejected for stuff.
Yeah.
And now you got to fight your way in. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, that's so fascinating, because, like, talk about coming full circle. You know, being on like a sort of a competition series to hosting a competition series, America's Got Talent. And I was going to ask, you know, like, listen. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it looks a whole lot of fun, because when you are watching a cast and they're having fun, you're having fun. But being on a set, there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
So then you go from sort of working on the set of Brooklyn Nine-Nine to being in front of thousands of people at AGT, America's Got Talent. What is it like going from one extreme to the other like that?
Oh my God. You know, now this is the thing for me. America's Got Talent really fulfills the hole that was left from football. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't play football for the money, because it's really like, it's injury. There's a lot of pain. But you play for the cheers. You play for the energy. The whole city is on you. They love you. They're like, if you make a mistake there, you feel the energy of the city. Boo. If you do something great, your energy of the city is like, ah. I mean, let me tell you, there's a high that goes, like, if you win during a Sunday, and then the whole week, everybody's like, oh, we love you. You're awesome. I mean, and the whole week is a high. And I wasn't getting that, because with doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine or a movie, you film it, there's no studio audience, and then there's also, you have to wait. So there's like 3-4 weeks, maybe 2 months, and then the episode comes out, and you know, you wonder how people thought about it. But with AGT and this live format, it's, you know, now, like, people are like, and the live thing, like, let me tell you, when we were at the Dolby, and I'm out there, and there's like 10 acts waiting to go on, and you know, the whole world is what, like, people are like, yeah, we got, you know, you might have, let's say 3,000-4,000 people in the Dolby, but you know for a fact there's probably 20 million people watching at this second. Dude, that right there, you feel alive. The energy, it's like your spine just goes whoop. You're like, all right, let's do this. And let me tell you, there's nothing like it. It feels like with sports, where when somebody throws you a ball and it's up there and you got to catch it, or or you lose, the same thing with that live aspect. Anything can happen. Anything could go wrong, you know? And dude, it usually never does, which is so amazing.
Well, I'll tell you, anything can happen. And the best things that do happen are the most emotional moments, the most inspiring moments watching AGT. The Detroit Choir, your reaction to that was it brought me to tears. It brought other people in the room I was watching with in tears. And you know, you hit the golden buzzer, which overrides Simon, which I love.
Yeah.
But then you said something twice that resonated. All you need is one person to believe. And you said it twice.
Right.
So I feel like that's something that's meant a lot to you in different ways over the years.
Yes.
And do you remember the first time there was someone who really, really believed in you?
Yes, yes. And there's two examples of that.
Mm-hmm.
I am an artist, painting, drawing, I design furniture, I do all this stuff. This is why I thought I'd be behind the scenes. I actually had my portfolio in at Disney and DreamWorks as a hand-drawn animator at first, and then hand-drawn animation kind of went out of the way when Toy Story came out.
Toy Story, yeah.
So, but this is the deal. I had a teacher named Mr. Eichelberg. And Mr. Eichelberg, you gotta understand, I'm from Flint, Michigan. So at the time, there was a rise of the crack epidemic and then the demise of the auto industry. So we were going through a lot. A lot of what America is experiencing now, I experienced in Flint, Michigan, years and years ago as a high school student. Mr. Eichelberg believed in me so much because I didn't believe in myself. Mm-hmm. I would draw and he would like, you're good, you're really good. And I was like, I don't know, And he took all my pictures and all my paintings and everything I did, photographed them without me knowing, submitted them for scholarships to different agencies, different places. And I ended up getting 2 scholarships. I got one to the Interlochen Arts Academy, where I studied with people from all over the world. And the other one was to Western Michigan University. And I'm like, and an art scholarship. And he said, I remember coming to class, he said, hey, Terry, I got a surprise for you. He said, you have 2 scholarships. And I'm going, what? And listen, that broke me down because that was that one person. You know what I mean? That one person that gives you the keys because he believes so much, he's willing to go the extra mile because he didn't have to do it. He really didn't. He could have just went in, yeah, you're good. Okay, next student. Right. But he took that extra step. The other thing was the other guy was a coach I had named Coach Lee. I was a football player. And I was like, I went to, again, my school, it wasn't getting a lot of looks. So he said, hey, Terry Crews, you should be playing at a Division I school. You can make it. You can go all the way. And I was like, I never heard that. My parents weren't into sports. And I had never heard that from anyone. He believed in me. I'm gonna tell you, when I was on the San Diego Chargers, I flew Coach Lee all the way to a game in Kansas City, and they put him in the sidelines with a coach cap on. He was our coach. He had he had dreams of going pro. They put him on the sideline. He had his hat on and the whole thing. And I said, Coach, this is because you believed in me. You are now here with me in the pros because you believed in this little kid. And let me tell you, man, I was in tears for those kids on that stage. And let me tell you, those kids went home and got $1 million from the city of Detroit. A lot of people don't know that. They did not win the show. They were number 2. But because of the brilliant performance that they did, they inspired so many people. The city gave them $1 million anyway. This is how entertainment, this is how it changes lives. It changes perspectives. It totally takes one person from one place and puts them on another. Those kids, you will never, ever talk them out of their dreams, ever. Any kid that was on that stage now believes that anything is possible. And that changes everything. Yeah. Isn't that great?
I just felt that you were talking from experience and not just one. And those are 2, just beautiful examples. I just love how in the last 20 years, you've really been able to balance TV and film, to balance action and comedy. And, I guess when you're working on a series, and you're doing it for many years, like you've done a few times now, and you're working on a film, whether it's a comedy or, you know, an action film like Expendables or Deadpool 2, or something really out there like Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah.
I saw that at Sundance, Terry. It rocked my world. What was it like working with Boots Riley? How was that different from anything you've ever done?
Okay, you know, I am an experimenter. Okay, I like to experiment, and a lot of experiments have not gone well. But this is what you got to understand: perfection is never there. Okay, risk it, go. Life is like art. You know, with art, you draw lines and you keep drawing them, and then you take your eraser and you erase the bad part, and you keep the good line. And this is the way I like to do it, is just to keep trying things, keep going for stuff. Try this, try that. That's how I ended up hosting, because I tried the hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I was doing that. And now you end up doing a whole nother thing. There's a whole nother revenue stream coming. But the whole thing is like art, you find it. But if you do it too deep and try to make it too perfect, you can never erase it. This is the thing. It's kind of like a line. It's a hard line, and you go to make it, dig it too deep. Now you can't correct it. You can't go backwards. You can't go forward. You might as well throw the piece of paper away. And my goal, when I saw Sorry to Bother You, I said, oh my God, this movie is so out there. It's so insanely beautiful. But I got the subtext in almost every scene. And I was like, this is absolutely, like, my thing was, I was like, how are you gonna get this on the screen? That was my thing. We were all wondering, like, oh, how is this gonna actually look? But we all invested and did it, and changed everything. I'm on set with Armie Hammer and Boots and Lakeith Stanfield and Tessa Thompson, and they're just amazing people who are willing to sacrifice comfort and just that security for something risky. And listen, if we do it and it works, it'll be beautiful. And it worked. It worked. Oh, yeah. And it was so, listen, I'm still so proud of that movie. And Boots right now for me is just one of the most, I can't wait to see what he does next. I really can't.
I saw that movie at Sundance. It was an 8:30 a.m. screening. So talk about, you know, the movie's over and you're like, you walk out of the screen and you're like, what was
that? Thinking about that? You're thinking about that one all day.
You're into the next 3 movies, still thinking about Sorry to Bother You, and that definitely happened. I want to ask you about something that you're doing, that you've been doing, that is clearly very, very special to you. Tell us about Celebrity Substitute.
Yes. Well, I mentioned how much art changed my life and what it means to me. And YouTube, during this pandemic, there were so many kids that were stuck in their homes. And first of all, I can't even imagine, because I love school. I loved going to school. I could not wait to get out and interact with kids and people. I'm a people person. You know, you can't really fake liking people. You know what I mean? You can always tell. I love people. And being stuck at home would be a nightmare for me. So all I could think about was these poor kids who are now forced to just go on their computers and log in with no interaction. I mean, hey, you know, even what we're doing now, it's okay, but I would much rather be in person. You know what I mean? We are missing a dimension, okay? There's no faking it. We're missing something.
Yep.
So let's just acknowledge that. So what I did, I said, let's find, with YouTube, when they came to me, I was like, my goodness, I want to be a part where we would show up into these classrooms, these virtual classrooms, and bring celebrities in there and say, hey, hello, I'm here, I'm with you. And I got with this one class, this teacher, her name was Rachel Wong, and she was incredible. She teaches in Compton, and we taught an art class. We talked about perspective, scale, proportion, and I actually was drawing and showing all the kids, you know, showing them what it is. And one of the crazy thing is, when I showed up on the Zoom, it was like this look of like, wait a minute, no, like, are they watching TV or not? And to see the look of joy on their faces and the excitement. And because the thing is, this class of 2020, no matter all the students in 2020, this will never be forgotten. You know what I mean? And the fact that we are going to make, I knew we needed to make it super special so they didn't feel like they were missing something, but in fact, that now you're the special class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now you're the one no one's ever going to forget. You know, whatever grade you're in, no one will forget this. And don't look at yourself as someone who missed something, but look at yourself as someone who now has changed the future. You know what I mean? Because right now, schooling, everything's going to be different from here on out.
Well, I hope that doesn't just end there with things being different from here on out. You know, we are in the midst of a massive movement for civil rights, for equality, for justice, for liberation. And because this is for the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I wanted to ask you how you hope changes will take effect in our business and specifically for the acting profession.
You know, first of all, I have to say, you know, as an actor, I've encountered, you know, systemic racism. I've encountered overt racism. You know, you go on an audition, you get notes about being more Black. And you're like, how can that be? You know, what do you mean? And this is when I started out early. And to be honest, most guys like me, your first introduction into the acting field is as a criminal on a procedural. And again, one of my first things I ever did, it was an episode called The District, a TV show called The District. And a great cast, great people, but I played a person who was suspected of murdering someone. You know what I mean? I've done a couple CSIs, you know, Sam Jackson will tell you, he did a couple procedurals where he got killed and came back next week. And they were like, yeah, he's a new criminal. You know what I mean? You're like, wait. So when you're talking about these kind of things that seem ludicrous right now, like you go, man, it's just so obvious, but it's not. Mm-hmm. That is the issue. When you look at these kind of things that are very, very buried, and you know, what's so crazy is that the only way I can really describe it is that sometimes I don't even, when we're talking about things like white privilege, and you've heard that, and people go, well, you know, you don't see it. But there's also male privilege. Mm-hmm. There's also tall privilege, muscular privilege. You know what I mean? People talk to me differently than they would talk to somebody else. You know what I mean? I've seen these kind of things, and you know you can be manipulated by this stuff. And when I look at overt racism, systemic racism, all this stuff, this can be ingrained in the fabric of what we're talking about. You know what I mean? Because if you look hard enough, you'll always find it. Now we have an opportunity to dissect it and to really acknowledge everything for what it is. And I'm talking about as a guilty person, I felt for years that I was more valuable than women in my life simply because I was a man. Simply because I was a guy, I felt I was more valuable. And I had my world rocked and literally had to revamp my entire life because I'm going, wait a minute, this is not how it is. And now it's funny because it seems like America is experiencing that right now. Yeah. In terms of race. You know what I mean? What they thought it was, it's not. And we always have to do this. I think that there are times when there's a point where you thought in human society that the sun went around the earth. That's what we thought. And as long as we thought that, you could never go to outer space. But as soon as we realized that we went around the sun, it opened up the fact that now we got it so that we can go into space. And this is what these kinds of blocks that once you get through them, we could take our society, our culture, our nation to a whole nother place right now. Because now it's recognized, and it took a pandemic, it took economic collapse, and sad to say, I mean, when I look at the death of George Floyd, everyone watching that all at once, it's too powerful. To me, it's bigger than the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, because we didn't see that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you saw George Floyd lose his life. And my thing is, that's trauma for America. It's trauma for the world. And now you're forced to deal with this. And I don't think it'll ever be the same. And I'm really pushing and doing everything I can to make sure it's never the same. And I'm very, very confident that we can include everybody into this new world, every person, no matter your nationality, no matter where you're from, rich, poor, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and we all have to create this new world, recognizing this new reality. And man, now we can take off. Like I said, we can go to outer space right now.
Wow. Wow. Well said. And, you know, just because you have just endured so much just in the last few months, and you've, I mean, just made such massive fundamental shifts in your own life, going from being an artist to playing football to being an actor, and you've grown, you've evolved. You know, because these are challenging times, and because you are so positive and so passionate and have such great energy, any parting words of wisdom and inspiration for our SAG-AFTRA members?
The one quote, and it's an anonymous quote, that has got me through everything from my wife's cancer to the pandemic, through all of this, every bit of this, to what's happened just recently, the protests and all this, is the quote I heard was that sometimes your greatest hopes are destroyed to prepare you for something better.
Wow.
Sometimes your greatest hopes are destroyed to prepare you for something better. And I'll go, oh, because this is the deal. You don't want to lose your hopes. You don't want this thing you always wanted to fall. But sometimes it's preparing you for a new future that's better than what you thought you were going to have. Listen, like I said, I never thought I would be an actor, but my football career had to collapse so that the acting could happen. You know what I mean? And this is why it's so crazy.
I completely relate to that, those great words. I've been there myself. I completely relate. And Terry Crews, thank you so very, very much for this fantastic SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversation at Home. Our very, very best to you and your family. And please stay safe, and all the best. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's good to be here.